Hello, this is Mr. Bowlby. We are reading the CKLA 4th grade Domain 2 reader on the Middle Ages. This is chapter 7, Henry II and Law and Order. The big question, why was King Henry II such an important English king? The great conqueror is dead. He died 21 years after his incredible victory at the Battle of Hastings. William I had ruled England with an iron fist. He punished anyone who refused to be loyal to him. To defend his newly acquired kingdom, he built great castles. He kept a close eye on finances. After his death, England experienced a period of turmoil and unrest. As a result, power-hungry nobles fought each other and fought each other, and some even challenged the ruling kings. Finally, in 1154 CE or AD, however you want to read it, 67 years after William's death, his great-grandson, Henry II, became king. Just like his great-grandfather, Henry II became the Duke of Normandy. Bright and determined, he made major reforms in justice, finance, and the armed forces. The first thing he did was to challenge the nobles who had been fighting among themselves for years. By this time, many nobles acquired great wealth. They built castles for themselves. They formed their own armies, led by knights. Henry II ordered that all castles built without royal approval be torn down. He also imposed a tax on the nobles. This tax, known as the shield tax, had been used before by Henry I. Instead of asking nobles to provide soldiers for his army, the king asked for money. With this money, Henry II was able to hire soldiers for his own army. The king treated everyone who questioned his authority mercilessly. Judges traveled from place to place to hear cases. Next, Henry II turned his attention to law and order. England had different courts assigned to deal with various crimes. For example, local lords held manor courts to deal with local affairs. There were also church courts. The king's court took care of serious crimes such as murder and treason. In the Middle Ages, there was a method of proof called trial by ordeal. This meant that the accused might be asked to prove his innocence by going through a certain ordeal. For example, the accused might have to pick up a piece of red-hot metal, be tossed into a pond, or fight an opponent. People believed that if the accused survived the ordeal, it was a sign from God that he was innocent. Henry II set up a fairer legal system. He created a circuit court system. This means that royal justices or judges went out into the countryside to hear cases. Their decisions helped decide future cases and ultimately became the basis of common law, for the law of the land, or the law of the land. By the time he died in 1189, Henry II had done a lot to restore the power and authority of the English monarchy. Murder in the Cathedral. In the beginnings of his reign, Henry II appointed a man he trusted named Thomas Becket to be his chief advisor. As well as controlling the nobles, Henry also wanted to limit the power of the church in England. To help him do this, he appointed Thomas to the position of Archbishop of Canterbury. This meant that Thomas had become the most powerful church leader in all of England. Henry was confident that his friend would support his decisions regarding the church. But things did not work out that way. Thomas took his new job very seriously. When Henry wanted to reduce the power of the church courts, Thomas disagreed with him. Furious, Henry thought about having his friend arrested. However, before this could happen, Thomas escaped to France. The Pope supported Thomas and threatened to excommunicate or remove Henry from the church. In the Middle Ages, excommunication was a terrifying prospect. Many Christians believed that if they were not part of the church, they would not go to heaven. Eventually, Henry and Thomas reached an agreement, and Thomas was allowed to return to England. Henry and Thomas's relationship did not improve, though. They continued to argue over church matters. Henry became so frustrated that during a royal dinner with many nobles in attendance, he said to have uttered the words, "Will no one rid me of this troublesome priest?" Was Henry just sulking? Or was he encouraging the assassination of Thomas? We will never know for sure. 4 knights who heard these words murdered the archbishop while he was kneeling in prayer in the Canterbury Cathedral. These knights may not have been set out to kill the Archbishop. The reason behind the murder of Thomas Becket are still a mystery. 3 years after Thomas's death, the Pope declared him a saint. Thomas Becket's tomb in the Cathedral, Canterbury Cathedral, became a holy shrine that many pilgrims visited during the Middle Ages. It is said that Henry never forgave himself for the death of his friend. A most extraordinary queen. In 1153, Henry II married a woman named Eleanor of Aquitaine. Eleanor came from a noble family who controlled Aquitaine, one of the richest regions of France. She had been married previously to the King of France. Henry and Eleanor had 8 children. In 1173, 2 of their sons plotted against Henry. Henry believed Eleanor had been involved in the plot to overthrow him, so he had her placed under house arrest. When Henry died in 1189, Eleanor was released by her oldest son, Richard I. Richard was crowned king after the death of his father, Henry II. Eleanor helped to govern England during the years of King Richard was away fighting in the wars known as the Crusades. Because he was so brave, Richard earned the name Lionhearted. Eleanor of Aquitaine is thought to have been one of the most influential women of her time. The Crusades. A series of wars that became known as the Crusades helped to define and shape the Middle Ages. The origin of these wars began in 638 when Arab armies captured the holy city of Jerusalem. Despite this conquest, Jerusalem remained open to travelers, traders, and pilgrims. The city was, after all, sacred to Jewish people, Muslims, and Christians. And in 1095, Muslim Turks took control of Jerusalem. This time the city was closed to Jewish and Christian pilgrims. The Pope commanded that the kings of Europe raise an army to reclaim Jerusalem. Between 1095 and 1291, there were 9 crusades or attempts to recapture Jerusalem. Despite these periods of confrontation, trading relationships developed between Europe and the Middle East. In addition to trading goods, people exchanged knowledge of science and mathematics, as well as the views on art and architecture. If you were a crusader, as a young crusader, you would have traveled to faraway lands. This could have been your experience. Your eyes are red and itchy. It is difficult to see through the cloud of dust that has been kicked up by the many horses galloping across the dry desert land. Your mouth is parched and dry. 2 years have passed since you left your father's country home in the beautiful rolling hills of your homeland. In that time, you have been traveling across land and sea. You have experienced incredibly hot and cold climates. You have recovered from diseases. You're one of the lucky ones for sure. You wear a red cross on your shirt of armor, and you carry a flag that bears the same emblem. Some of the men you travel with fought alongside King John's brother, Richard, the Lionhearted. Like all Christian crusaders, it is your intention to help recapture the city of Jerusalem in the Holy Land. As you and your fellow knights rest and water your horses, you can see the city of Jerusalem in the distance. When the time comes, you and your fellow knights will fight to the death to recapture this holy place. But before that moment comes, you kneel down in the warm sand and pray for victory. Medieval musings. In the Middle Ages, the poor had a very simple diet. They ate mostly from 3 food groups. What were these food groups? Clues. Even today, they are important foods. In the Middle Ages, to whom did people go if they needed to have a tooth removed? These people also cut hair. Now, letter quest. Find the letter in the stained glass window and record it on activity page 2.3. Thank you for joining me in this chapter. This is Mr. Bowlby, signing out.